And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. Guys, Krusty's in a mood, so this should be pretty entertaining this week. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. How you feeling, Krusty?
I feel good.
Oh,
I knew
gosh.
that I would.
It's going to be an entertaining episode.
Yeah, all of a sudden I got a little, I don't know, a little craziness coming about. So
That's
this should be
fair.
good for you.
Should be
You
pretty
usually take the
entertaining.
brunt of my crazy.
We got round 2 of playoff hockey.
We do.
We've had some games already. There's some games going on right now, and there'll be some results by the time this comes out that we didn't know about yet.
That is correct. Because we're on a tape delay. Because there's a lot of things that have to happen all over the place. I hope everybody is really happy that you can kind of see me now. I'm in the light.
You are in the light.
Thanks to Hockey Princess letting me record a little earlier.
Yep. We're not night owls this week. First matchup, kind of talk about preview, because there was game 1 last night. We got the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Florida Panthers. It's feisty, it's spicy, and gosh darn it, Sam Bennett is Sam Bennett.
Yes,
Krusty,
Sam.
what are your thoughts with this matchup?
It's going to be an interesting one. Because at the end of the day, the Leafs are not a small team.
No.
So the intimidation factor, I don't know how much that works this time around. But Sam Bennett is Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett has the opportunity to give you a shot. He is going to give you a shot. He don't give no fucks, as they say in the biz.
True that.
It's part of the way he plays. We can get into the hit whenever you want to.
Well, my initial, there's going to be people on different sides about the hit. I personally, from what I've seen, I have not seen it at every angle like some people have. To me, I don't think the hit itself, if you're just looking at Bennett's collision with Stolarz, I don't think it's that bad of a hit. I don't think it's that bad of a hit in itself, and I don't see it as, it's certainly not, the nastiest thing Sam Bennett's done in the playoffs. What I think was the cause of, or potentially was the cause of, Stolarz coming out, was the puck to the head prior, and then probably this in addition. But what I find the most ridiculous thing is Toronto you've got your goaltender puking into the bench, and you still wait a while to pull him out of the game. I don't see why it wasn't an immediate pullout, and at least for concussion protocol when the Bennett hit happened. He was still left in the game for a long, regardless of however many minutes. It was too long in my eyes, and that's what I find the most ridiculous part about the situation.
Okay, we can break that down into many parts if you'd like. I can't. It's been brought up, and I'd have to agree. I can't imagine that he's concussed from a puck to the head. But he had a puck to the head. He was ran one time before when they tripped up somebody, and then he was hit this time. I'm not a concussion expert. I would assume concussion is your brain like swishing around in your skull, right?
Yeah.
So I would
My
assume
understanding.
that is 3 swishings. Does that make it worse? Do they add up on each one? I would assume so, but I don't know. And that brings us to the whole part of concussions that nobody really knows. It didn't look like that unbelievably of a nasty hit by Bennett. Now, Stolar's reaction looked like it was a nasty hit because he dropped. He was out almost. So, whether it's a combination of all three, this
I
or
mean, because
that,
all three of them happened not immediately, like, one happened shift one happened shift two, and one happened shift three, but it seemed that they were close enough where it could have easily been a snowball of a situation.
yeah. And as I said, I'm not equipped to state that that's a possibility. I would assume it is, but
We don't know.
yeah, that doctor thing is way over my skis. Um, as far as your other point of Stolar's throwing up into the bench, this is the way it is. Number one, the Maple Leafs are never taking him out. There is no team in the playoffs that is taking out their goaltender. Their goaltender is going to say, I just don't feel well. Don't worry about it and want to play. I was under the impression this is why the NHL had spotters. How the spotter sees that hit to the head, sees Solar's reaction, and says, play on. It just lets you know that's just the way it is. A lot of the concussion protocol and this and that is all about appeasing certain people and this and that. So it's an incredibly difficult one to say where you go from, because number one, the player's not going to want to come out. The coach doesn't want to lose them. And the NHL doesn't want to get that involved and dictate a series. So here we are back at the same spot we've always been at. How exactly you handle that, I don't know.
I mean, but whether you want it to dictate a series, it's going to. Because, like we saw later in the game, Stolar's did come out.
Right.
Like, and Krusty tells me this all the time. You have a choice in everything. So even by standing around and not doing anything, the NHL has chosen that is the choice that they are wanting to make in that series. Them not interfering, that's still a choice. And that choice is still having consequences in that series, regardless if it's for one side or the other. It's still a choice that they're making.
Bringing up crusty old guy's parenting and words of wisdom on this show? Yes, and Krusty does say that all the time. I don't ever want to hear I have to from either of my children, because there is no ever have to. There is always choices. Yes, but you need to look at it from the NHL's perspective. Why are they so concerned about concussions? They're worried about lawsuits. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, you might think it's about player safety. That's no different than any blue-collar employer who's worried about their personal safety of an employee. No, they're not.
Yeah, right. I'm under the firm belief. Not even NHL player safety really cares about player safety.
No, they're worried. You're worried about people coming back and taking you for money, and because through lawsuits on concussions. That's why this stuff has started and everything. Again, I don't know how you exactly deal with it. It'd be a great topic. I know the car bomb has done a lot of work with this. Andrew
For
Shaw.
those that are new, that is Daniel Carcillo, former Blackhawk.
Yeah. But again, I don't know how you actually deal with this, because as I said, the player's going to say I'm playing. Well, it's just different. It's not like a broken leg where you see the bones displaced. You don't know
unless you're throwing up into the bench.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. That and the Brent Seabrook unable to get up are kind of pretty gosh darn big indicators of something's not right.
Correct. No, the throwing up into the bench is a huge one from everything that I've heard is the nausea that comes from a concussion and everything else.
I'm
And
curious as to, and you mentioned spot like the NHL having spotters. What constitutes pulling somebody for concussion protocol in the game? Is there a set thing that teams get from player safety, or is it up to the discretion team to team?
it's not team to team. It's the spotter. That's an NHL thing. And again, we used to have more people being taken out. I'd say 6, 7 years ago. I mean, I can't remember the last time somebody was taken out for a little bit to be checked. Can you?
I mean, goaltender?
I'm talking any player.
Yes.
Who?
I thought we had one this year.
I don't know of any, but I know of people who've come back for a couple shifts and then didn't feel right and left on their own. I can't remember a spotter pulling somebody in ages. Where when this first went down, it was common practice almost. You'd see that because what originally it was set up for is you would see the contact to the head. And that's that. He's got to go into a room for a little bit and take a baseline test and make sure everything's okay. I haven't seen that happen in ages. I mean, I've seen players leave on their own,
Right.
but not a spotter pulling somebody.
I guess I don't know because I don't think I know what that looks like from where we sit during games. I don't necessarily think I know the differences of what that looks like between in my eyes from where we sit on a game to game basis. It just looks like, oh, so and so's going to the locker room. I don't think I know is it a
Oh,
spot
either
going
do
down?
I. I'm under the impression because also before you were told he's being removed for concussion protocol from a spotter. I mean, it's the NHL doing that, so they have to come out with something in real time stating that's why the players being removed, and I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I guess
No, it's nothing that I would notice from the seat.
okay.
No, but the NHL comes out with that somebody has to leave the ice for concussion protocol. But again, I haven't seen that in at least 3 years. So, um, as I told you, when it's a black eye again for the NHL, just because it's a really bad scene when you got the guy puking into his own bench and still not sure if he's going to come out.
Right.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I don't know how you fix a problem when at the end of the day, in the moment, nobody wants it fixed. That's the difficult part. I understand when these players, after they played for a little while, now going, I'm a mess. Why? I don't know.
I guess, do we really know that they don't have a problem with it when they're playing? Have we really gotten any interview, concrete, anything from a player? Not, you know, when they're retired or at the end of their career. Have we gotten anything from Jack Hughes on concussion protocol or somebody where they're actively, you know, at the prime or relative prime talking about this? Or are we just assuming that they don't want to come out of the game because they're a hockey player?
We're not assuming that completely. I think you have mid-level players that are worried if they come out, they'll never go back in. I mean, you had Sid take a whole year off.
Right.
You had Johnny take a good amount of time off. I just think, like everything else, there was an initial time frame when we were worried. Sid took the year. There was all the talk about Chris Pronger taking years upon years to get himself right again. And that's all kind of gone by the wayside now. We've taken care of some of the hits, but others we don't. And again, if it was an easy fix,
They would have done it.
they would have done it. It's just it becomes more complex just because nobody's sure if they want to come out. And as I've told you before, this is the playoffs. This is the selling piece of the NHL, is the almost barbaric behavior that all of a sudden, after game 3 in the first round, everything kind of goes by the wayside.
Yeah.
Look at the end of the game. Matthew Tkachuk takes a run at, I believe it was Marner, and then comes back and cross-checks Marner. It's pretty simple if you want this out of the way. You give them a game for it. You say the whistle's blown. That's a game. I can't tolerate this. But the NHL doesn't want to do that.
They don't want to do that. They only want to fine you if you're shooting pucks to another guy across the ice during warm-ups.
No,
then
because
they care.
It's part of the reason why I love the NHL, because I love the meat-headed, barbaric part of it. But it's also what they're selling.
Yeah.
This will be the storyline. Matthew Tkachuk trying to be blah, 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 blah. He's going to get in their heads, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, how do you fix that? You're saying you want this. You're showcasing it.
Right.
Nobody wants to see 3-on-3 hockey. Nobody wants to see hockey become the NBA where, hey, superstars just dominate and most of it's a foregone conclusion. You know, we like that fourth liners get to make their mark. We like the physical play. It's a fine line as far as the Stolarz thing. You know, I can't imagine that he's back. And that's a big blow because he's been playing really well. But like anything else, you just gotta, next man up.
Exactly. And it has been announced that Sam Bennett will not receive any disciplinary action for the hit. Going to the next matchup that we have, game is currently on right now. Washington is up 1-0. Is the Washington Capitals versus the Carolina Hurricanes.
Did we say who we're picking in this next round or no?
I thought we were still just going off. Yours is so blown to hell. You don't have picks.
Right. So I'd like to repick now.
Okay. Out of Toronto and Florida, what would you like?
I'm taking Florida.
Yes. Go Seth Jones.
Yeah, which will be a complete, kick in the teeth. It's the kiss of death. I pick them, they lose.
And we know.
So for all you gamblers out there, you might want to just start figuring out, Krusty picks somebody, bet against them.
And we all know my feelings because when there's playoff hockey, there's Tomoru too, and that's what matters.
True story.
So, going back to Washington versus Carolina, I have Carolina still. Krusty, what are your feelings?
I had Carolina, didn't I, or no? I had Carolina beating Montreal, but I think
Carolina beat New Jersey.
Right. I didn't take New Jersey, did I?
No. Let's check.
No.
Let's check.
Come on. No, I didn't. That was one of the few that I won. So I'm going to take the Canes on that one. So.
Yeah, you had Carolina. I also have Carolina, even though they're losing the game right now, but it's fine. It's just game one. It's not over. Still plenty of hockey left. Should be very entertaining. There's a lot of history with these two teams. Should be very spicy.
Yeah, it'll be spicy. It will be physical. They all run 3 scoring lines deep. Um, Carolina is a team that just get puck, shoot puck, continue to run all over the place, attack, shoot, attack, shoot, attack, shoot. Washington is more methodical, picking and choosing their spots, setting up good plays. So everybody's very skilled. Part of it'll be, can Freddie Anderson actually make it through a series?
Yes, he can.
And Logan Thompson looks darn good. So that should be a great series. I can't imagine.
Pete DeBoer should think twice before consistently shooing away Logan Thompson.
Yeah, maybe.
Going over to the West.
Okay.
We've got
Sorry, I was just smiling.
The Hockey Princess hate watching matchup because I hate both of these teams a lot. But at the end of the day, Vegas needs to get it done. Is your Vegas Golden Knights and your Edmonton Oilers. I don't know what's realistically going to happen, but my bracket says Vegas, so I'm sticking with Vegas, and because I don't want to watch any more Edmonton hockey.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Edmonton.
Kiss of death, Edmonton.
Yep. Sorry about that, Edmonton. Again, should be another good series. Vegas will be able to out physical them. But again, there's nobody on Vegas to stop that top line. So, I don't know. I hate betting against Jack Eichel just because I just think he's still underrated. He doesn't Wait.
No, I need Edmonton to win this.
Okay.
I need Mark Stone out. I need Miro Heiskanen to have the ability to play more playoff hockey than Mark Stone.
Okay.
No, Edmonton's got to maybe like game 7. I hate it all, but no, Edmonton's got to go past Vegas. I need Vegas out if Heiskanen comes back this round.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Does Stuart Skinner at some point in time come into this series? I've got to figure yes. I just don't know
when.
How you figure you're going to win a Stanley Cup when every year you go into the playoffs knowing, yeah, it's not somebody's net. We're going to just be going with a hot hand. Well, in order to find a hot hand, there has to be a cold hand. So you're risking losing 2 games on the cold hand before you turn to somebody else. I don't think that's the perfect recipe. Again, Edmonton's deep. With them getting Frederick and Kane back, they're a little bit of a different animal. They're definitely more physical. There's definitely a lot more net front presence. It'll be interesting. Vegas just has a way of wearing teams down and then finishing them. It's just what they do.
I will say, as much as I hate to admit it, that will be a intense 60 minutes every game.
Yeah. And again, Vegas just doesn't have any panic. Where I think Edmonton, they're a little bit more of a roller coaster. So.
And our final matchup, which is great because, Christy, we don't have to talk about the St. Louis Blues anymore. We have success story of Game 7 with success story of Game 7. Your Dallas Stars versus your Winnipeg Jets. I have Winnipeg winning it all the way. I'm questioning it now, watching Connor Hellebuck play more in this postseason, and I'm concerned. Maybe it was just the yips of having a Four Nations rematch. Maybe it was just the yips after, one loss. You have a hard time getting that groove back. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in this matchup. I'd like Winnipeg to win, but at the same time, there's quite a few players on Dallas that I'm a big fan of. And so if Winnipeg loses, it'll be good too.
Yeah. Number one, I believe both of them came from behind in Game 7, correct?
Mm.
Um, Full disclosure, as I told you, I did not watch the end of that Winnipeg game. I watched the first period, and that second goal Hallbuck gave up. I'm like, oh, this is that. It's past the yips. I know that. This is a full-on trend of not being able to handle the pressure. That's simple. People are skating down on him, and he's not making stops he should be. So, and it seems like every mistake Winnipeg made got turned around and they got scored on. Can he turn it around? Of course he can. It's the NHL, but it's not just the yips. It's just he is struggling with every aspect of goaltending. Where the other guy, Ottinger, just still looks great.
Oh, yeah, because it's the Otter. Remember when we almost could have gotten him? I think I may bring that up every time that I can for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's possible. Again, this one's a really tough call. I mean, I'll take Dallas just because I'm gonna take Dallas, and I can't bet on Connor Hallbuck because he just hasn't delivered, and I don't know if Scheifele is coming back. That's another brain thingy. Um, so Robertson, I would assume won't be back unless game 5 or 6 or
He
7.
was skating.
Yeah, but there'll be a difference between skating and then getting in there. Um, but between that Winnipeg game, that was just unbelievable. That you tied it up with 1.6 seconds to go, and the Dallas game where Rantanen just all of a sudden took
Became
over,
Rantanen.
on his old team, and that was that again. Colorado, I will say, I never saw Makar shifted into that other attack gear. Now, I don't know if that was by design or not, but that's one thing that I'm just curious of. Hopefully that's lesson learned for Colorado. And you've got to let that guy attack all the time.
Yeah.
You can't play safe with that guy. That's just too much talent there. But that should be another fantastic series. That's also a series that I could easily see games going 1-0 and 2-1. They'll both lock it down pretty well. And they might even come out in game 1 and just everybody worried about making a mistake. So nobody will be taking chances. Rantanen again will be the X factor. And for Winnipeg, it's if Scheifele can play, then that becomes a different team. But as Dallas just gets healthier, I think it's a tall order. So
Yeah. Should be interesting. Got anything else on the NHL world, Krusty? We're gonna get to the news in a minute.
there's news. What news?
Well, what happened yesterday?
What happened yesterday?
Lotto.
Oh,
We'll get
yeah,
to
no,
that in a minute.
no. The only other NHL world stuff since we last recorded, I believe Sullivan take the New York Rangers job?
Yes. Mike
So
Sullivan has taken the Rangers job as we expected. And to everyone, I mean, is the Hershey game done now? As I've been telling everybody, joking, Kyle can't have hired somebody because Hershey's still playing. Guys, it's fine. He can't hire him yet. Don't freak out.
Right.
But as our friend Ben Pope has told the Twitter world, there have been interviews. They just have not been advertised like when the GM interviews happened, which that kind of makes sense. I don't know if we're really going to get that much of like leaking of who is at these interviews, because if we know anything about Kyle, he holds his cards. Sometimes they're fake cards, very, very close to his chest.
Or you could just say he's full of shit. I mean, it's possible.
Well, I was trying to say that a more eloquent way.
With that being said,
Yeah, that was the whole thing too. Yesterday, all of these quotes, and I'm like, guys, I really don't think you spoke to him because I'm reading these and none of them say. With that being said,
yeah, I don't know why the cloak and dagger as far as the coach.
I would imagine with the amount of openings with other teams, you maybe don't want to advertise necessarily. It's not like Chicago's the only one that has an opening right now. And, we don't know how the Carl conversations went. Maybe he's a little butthurt. Maybe they're a scrambling. We don't know if it was pretty much locked down and then all of a sudden it wasn't. We weren't in the room. So I can imagine maybe there were other conversations and that's why he's keeping everything very close. Because prior to the news coming out that Carl took his name out of contention, the Blackhawk mouthpiece Frank was basically saying it was a surefire thing. So maybe the way that didn't come about has made Kyle and his team kind of be more selective on how they do things in terms of what they say to people.
That would make complete sense, considering they made it be known that he was their guy, and this fits the standard operating procedure of this organization. Where, see, we really wanted to swing for the fences. See, we really wanted that Demidov guy too, also, and see, we're always not good enough to get it. And yeah, maybe you realize that, and after he tells you I'm not interested, that you just go, I don't want to deal with the press on any of this. I can't blame him for that. No matter what, even if you interview, you're going to be interviewing more. There's people playing in the AHL, and there's probably assistants that you're going to look at. So you're just going to. The only problem I have with all of this is just that then there's still the Sorensen head that keeps on going, and then I got to read how the young kids love him.
I'm pretty
This
sure I
is
can think of
this is
one
NHL
kid that
hockey.
doesn't.
I don't care about the love. I could go for maybe them disliking somebody a little bit and being a little motivated. Um,
I don't
so
know. I really don't think Lucas Reichel or Philip Kurashev are his biggest fan at the moment.
well, no, and that's the other thing. People I've talked to have said, "Well, look at the progression,"
What?
and then I say, "Okay, I'll look at the progression." Connor Bedard, haven't seen a lot of progression. Alex Vlasic, haven't seen a lot of progression. Lucas Reichel, haven't seen a lot of progression. Yes,
When are you starting this progression?
beginning of the year.
Beginning of this year. Okay. I was like, we're not about to say that Alex Vlasic has not progressed since his time in like
He regressed this
Rockford.
year. We could throw in many different things. The fact that you didn't get to play with Seth Jones, the fact that you had more responsibilities makes a difference. Um, and again, for Kershaw, no progression. So where is it actually this progression? And I know what people are going to tell me. NASCAR. I will give you NASCAR. The rest, Renzel. Renzel played 6, 7 games. Again, as I remind everyone who wants to all of a sudden say, we'll see how well it all went at the end. Remember Lucas Reichel. Remember everybody clamoring to sign him for 5 years at $5 million. That's what everybody wanted to do. And I said, whoa, you don't judge by the end of the year when half of these teams don't care and everybody's looking past you. So there's no way I look and say Sorensen has really made a great progression with people. So that's just my take. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I can't hear you. Talk.
Because you were monologuing quite a bit.
Is that bad?
No, that's fine. It's quite literally the point of the show.
Good.
But jumping to our next, really the kiss of death, is that Krusty has no faith in the Rockford Icehogs, and they have decided to give him a middle finger, and they're currently up 2-0 in the series against Milwaukee. By the time this comes out, this round may be done, or Milwaukee has 1-1, because they do play tomorrow, which is Wednesday, for Game 3 of the series. They've been playing fantastic, but also Milwaukee has been playing like they have absolutely no legs. Game 1, everyone played solid. Milwaukee came out swinging first. They were able to come from behind and kind of lock it down. Game 2 was when everyone really decided to shine. Biggest issue coming out of Game 2 is how Zach Sanford is going to be. He took a pretty decent hit during Game 2. If he's out for a big period of time, that does put a sizable hole in the roster with his size, his physicality, and goal scoring. Puts a bit of a divot, but I still have full confidence in Rockford. Mainly because if I can't have full confidence in my big club, I'm going to have full confidence in my AHL affiliate. But everybody played great. Drew played great, but he also wasn't challenged a ton during Game 2. It was kind of just the Joey Anderson show, which was pretty nice to see. You had some really good glimpses from Ludwinski for the first 2 games of this series. Fantastic savvy goal with the jump too, as Krusty was talking about last week. That was great. All around, very exciting. Still haven't seen Spellacy or Vanaker in the lineup. Maybe that changes if Sanford is out. I doubt it. We don't know. I think at this point you may be better off just throwing a kid in there maybe for a little bit of time instead of pulling up a guy from Indy, but I also don't know if they can even pull up guys from Indy because Indy's done for the year, and I really don't know how that works. But I think that's the only time that I really see if Spellacy or Vanaker see the light of the ice is if Sanford is kind of out.
Yeah, as I said before, I don't think they're all that interested in getting them ice time. And again, you don't want to put them in over somebody who's been giving it their all in Rockford all year long.
Right.
But yeah, maybe, with Sanford, if he's not able to go, do you think about it? Yeah, maybe. I don't know what they have left, who they could play besides them, but I'm sure they have a couple other players.
The mystery that is the AA. And if that's the case, give me AJ Spellacy.
Yeah, I think Double A is done. There's no paychecks, and he's out. He doesn't want to get hurt. He'll still be looking for a contract, which he will not receive. Um, but again, even though the second game is a lot of Joey Anderson, I don't care if the vets carry this team a little bit. The fact that you've already won 2 games in this round and are going to be playing more hockey is unbelievably beneficial to all these kids, especially that back end and everything else, and especially Drew. So this is all really, really good.
I will say another adding on to that as well, somebody who I thought really shined during game two. Krusty is going to say it's because Milwaukee really didn't have the legs, but I don't care because I'm going to give the kudos. His core looked pretty good. Artie
Uh,
looked lost.
well, again, I haven't watched. I'll be going tomorrow to do my scouting on games.
That's what your plan was?
What?
You just said that, oh, I had plans tomorrow, guys. That's why he couldn't record tomorrow. You're going?
Yeah. I
That's
have
cool.
no life except hockey life.
That is fair.
um, but I've heard from other sources also that core has looked good. Again, there's probably nobody more critical on core than I am.
And I really don't even care if Milwaukee doesn't have legs. Unfortunately, Milwaukee is Nashville's AHL affiliate. That is a big physical team. And so to look good against guys who can consistently pound your head into the boards, I think is a good look for core right now.
Well, yeah, and legs are irrelevant. I mean, I don't see how you can't have legs. You take away teams' legs by jumping on them. I mean, part of that, it's not just you don't sit there and look and say, well, Milwaukee. No, you got to give Rockford their credit saying they took their legs. So, I mean, you're attacking. Um, I've been up and down the core thing. There's talk maybe of moving him. Again, that's a high ceiling guy. So if you're moving him, it better not be for somebody else that you're hoping for.
Right.
It better be for a proven player that comes in next year.
Otherwise, don't move.
Otherwise, why would you then? You're not in a position where you need to be gambling. But
No.
if you're getting me a proven player and he's part of the package, fine. As far as Artie, as I said, I don't think coaching him is coming into play right now. The guy's just, as I said, he just attacks. He's like his own little unit. There's a 4-man unit, and then there's Artie, which I understand can't continue. I get that.
But it's fun to watch.
But I just don't. Yes, it's a ball for me to watch. I really enjoy it just because I'm watching it at the AHL level where I'm supposed to be. It was neat for his little bit of time up with the NHL, but that shouldn't be happening at the NHL level. That needs to be worked on in the AHL. Okay? The NHL is not a developmental league. That's why I get so infuriated when people start talking coaches, and I needed a development coach. Not in the NHL, you don't. You need a coach who wins. At some point in time, you have to teach these kids how to win, and that will take 3 years. Okay, so yeah, calm, cool, have a cigar.
Yep. Calm, cool, collected. Well, guys, we'll see what Rockford's like. Because Christy's going to go watch.
Yeah, so I'm sure Cora will wet the bed just so I can, bounce on him wherever else. But moving on to the next round would be huge for this young little group. Again, I'll have to deal with everybody saying, "Oh, everything's perfect." Well, it's not, but I understand that they just do that to get at old people like me, I think.
You done, crusty old guy?
I think so. More to be revealed next week.
Jumping to the big club. Nothing really happened with the big club, except the draft lottery was yesterday. And guys, we are picking number 3 in the first round. And then as of right now, number 29. That all depends on how Toronto does during the postseason. So right now it's 29, but we don't know. But we're going to pay more attention to number 3. Islanders have number 1, San Jose has number 2, and we have number 3. Number 3 is a very good spot for this draft. And we don't have a ton of information right now because Krusty and I are going to do our research. But I will just like to say before we begin the draft talk, there is not a correct answer going into this draft. There are kids that fit things that we don't have, variety of different things. There is not a correct, oh, we have to take this guy. We have to take this guy. Guys, we are missing so many things. There's a lot of players that we could take, and it's going to benefit our team in one way or the other. We're missing a ton.
That
With
would be
that
correct.
being said, Christy and I definitely have our fan favorites.
For right now, yes. Do you want to tell them who our fan favorite is?
Well, I've been preaching for a while, not to the level of Artie the Party last year, but I'm a big fan of the Porter Martoni kid. Captain for your Brampton Steelheads in the OHL. He is a winger, pretty big. I like him. Everyone's kind of expecting Matthew Schaefer to get picked for the New York Islanders. There's some rumblings that they take the hometown kid that is best friends with Cole Iserman, who they just took last year, in James Higgins. But I'm assuming they take Schaefer. Biggest question mark is who San Jose takes. Do they go with the Misa? Do they go with Martoni? Right now, Martoni's playing with Celebrini and Worlds, but Misa is a pretty huge centerman as well. There's also a couple of others. You've got your Caleb Denoye, your Anton Frundell. I believe there's one more that I'm blanking on, but there's a couple of other ones that are definitely top 5, and I don't necessarily see them going 1 and 2 prior to Chicago's pick, but this is also a weird draft where I can kind of see 1 being locked up, and after 1, I think everything's a crapshoot.
Yeah, I think it is. As far as the Blackhawks are concerned, the Higgins kid is just, it constantly revolves back to his size. And we have,
size is not everything. However, we already have enough shorties.
yeah, you've already got that. So that leaves you with Martoni or these 2 centermen that will be talked about. Because are you guaranteed that Bedard's a center? I don't know. Am I guaranteed that Nazar's a center? I don't know. As I've said a million times on this show, I go back to what Luke Richardson said. And I just think it was very profound where he goes, it just doesn't matter in today's game if he's exactly playing center, but I know I can't have 2 little guys out there. I need a medium, a biggie, and a little, preferably. So,
How tall is Sasha?
Sasha is 6'1", I would say. 6'1", maybe 6'2".
If you're looking for bigger size than Sasha.
For me,
ideally.
Yeah, I want at least one Bickle who's 6'3" and a Brower, just somebody who's big. They'll have the ability to play on the top line or the second line just because
of their size.
Just because of their size. My thing might die here.
Jesus.
Uh-oh. Let's hope not. I'd have to like struggle to plug it in.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going then.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there.
So, like we said, we'll definitely have some research. We'll definitely, especially when the Bible, as I refer to it as, comes out, we will have a lot more research going into the draft. We'll run predictions. We will beat everyone over the head with all of our draft information. But Krusty and I didn't do a ton of research just going into the lottery because you don't know before. I mean, your research, if you're picking 7 versus if you're picking 1, are, night and day. If you're picking 1, you really don't have to do any research. So, but we'll see. There's a lot of options. But like I said, there's not a correct guy because there's so many guys that we need. And, as I talk about during during training camp, during development camp or whatever, these are just kids. We don't know. Scouts don't know. Kyle doesn't know. We don't know what the future holds for these kids coming in the draft, for our kids. We can only guess.
I know.
You don't know.
I always know.
You know
You
nothing.
know, I know. I always know.
So we don't know. But
I've got to
we're going to
figure,
research.
as of right now, it's those top 3. So we're taking one of those top 3.
Martoni.
I just think if
Martoni.
Martoni's there, that's your guy. He's lit it up unless you are just dead set on taking a centerman, which not the end of the world either. Either way, this is a good spot to be in. I'll research more about these centermen. Full disclosure, I go a lot out of elite prospects, and people will always say, well, those aren't like real scouts, and they're not. People go off the hockey news also. Elite prospects, I know a lot of people have watched these kids a lot, and that's where I'm getting my information. But who knows? It'll be a big draft. Again, drafting's the easier part because you always can go, well, there's no way to know.
Right.
But we have to mold the rest of this team somehow.
Yeah.
So, but I like 3, and I like Martone for now.
All right. Jumping into Krusty's favorite part of our week. We got Blackhawk lore.
We do? Okay. As long as I don't like lose myself.
I really hope you don't. This was honestly inspired by our friends at Cats and Bolts podcast because there's been a lot of Florida Panthers Dale Talon haters right now. So we are going to be, or not giving this man enough credit when it comes to the Florida Panthers roster and what he's done for the Florida Panthers. And so we're going to tie that into what this man has done for the Chicago Blackhawks and why his leaving was controversial. We've talked about it a little bit when the interview came out with Talon and Spit and Chicklets, but we're going to talk about Dale Talon this week.
Okay. Does that mean I'm going to talk about him?
Yeah, you're going to talk about Dale Talon.
Oh, geez. So we're hoping this doesn't die. If it does die, then we'll carry over to the next show because Krusty Old Guy was not prepared on this computer. Well, I am a Dale fan. As far as the building of the Florida Panthers, Dale grabbed Ekblad and got criticized a lot for grabbing the Bob. And you see how well the Bob has worked out for them. So well that they traded Spencer Knight. I can't understand why there would be Dale hate for what he has built in Florida. But I would definitely understand that you have to give a shit ton of credit to Zito in what he's done. The Reinhardt and the Bennett were just huge. And Reinhardt, you had to give away one of your first, and that was it. And it was a second rounder for Bennett. you know, from two teams that we're worried that I'm worried that we're going to be. Like we're just going to be the Calgary Flames or the Buffalo Sabres. And it's never going to work. Dale, I love Dale. Dale did a broadcasting with Foley for a long time, and the story he tells is just then he floated around for a little bit, and during the complete dark days, he just had a chance meeting with the Blackhawks organization and Rocky of what to do. And then they kind of just said, "Well, do you want the job?" And Dale said, "Sure." And Dale's aspect was all he wanted to do was surround himself with winners. That was his MO. And that's the difference you see, like with KD. I don't see any winners here. Maybe Tyler Johnson was a winner, but that would be about it. Where on his staff, he brought people who'd won cups. The players he brought in were people who won cups. He did some unbelievably drafting, him and Mike Smith at the end of the day. But again,
Mike
you look
Smith
at,
was the predecessor, right?
yes, but you looked, he drafted Taves, he drafted King, he traded for Sharp, for Stieg, Havlat, and also brought in a Brian Campbell. Um, that's a huge part of your group, and he brought in Marian Hossa. Now, there's always been talk about if that was actually Dale's pick or whatever. From what Dale has always stated, that was his pick. That's who he wanted also. And then they kind of had a big problem. And Dale, as he likes to say, you know, put his body on the sword. He was the sacrificial lamb so Stan could get his job. Um, but Dale was revered by the players, none more than probably Big Buff, who Buff considered him instrumental. So, Dale, when you talked about that culture change for the Hawks, Dale was in the middle of it. He wanted to change the culture to winners. And he was great at it. He was a hockey person's hockey person. He was a fun guy, an unbelievable golfer. Let's see, what are they? Soon after
He
July
was
4th.
signing autographs at the convention when hockey players were too hungover to come down and meet the fans.
Yes, and that was also Buff who didn't show up. And then there was the Havlat Hossa thing. And what it says here, I'm getting this off of Wikipedia, that July 14th, Blackhawks demoted Talent to the position of senior advisor, while Stan Bowman, son of Scotty Bowman, was promoted to general manager. The following day, Martin Havlat, who was no longer a Blackhawk, criticized team's management and defended Talent. Every single player on that team is with Dale. I still talk to the guys all the time. Hockey players know a phony when they see one.
And I will say, you even see that with after the 2010 Cup, with how many followed to, was it, gosh, Atlanta?
Yeah, but so many players that wanted to make sure Dale got his due, and the first person they called after their championship was Dale. He had a problem with McDonough, and again, this is where everything gets a little weird for your Chicago Blackhawks. But me, I consider him one of the main architects, especially on that 2010 team. Him and Mike Smith, they built all of that. There's talk of, well, then they had cap problems. Well, sure, everybody started shining at the same time. You are going to have cap problems.
Yeah, that happens to, I think, any dynasty team.
Correct. So I believe he was given his due. And then in Florida, I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but that just really went weird. He started to build it, and the same thing kind of happened. A new owner came in and they just disregarded him. Dale is a heart on the sleeve kind of guy. He is going to tell you where it's at. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He doesn't sit there and pat your back and tell you what you want to hear. And I think that costed him in both places. Florida knew they had made such a mistake that they hired him back, but then that still didn't seem to work out. And as I said, Zito then did an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
I love Dale, so I'm going to say that one last time.
We love Dale here, even though I joke consistently that Dale Talon was the first man to give me trust issues in the hockey world by trading away my favorite player of all time. But even I can still acknowledge what Dale did, not only for the city of Chicago, but also for the Florida Panthers as well.
Yeah, in me, on the show, I've never gone to the length where people say they don't want to say Stan's name. Yes, I got 2 T-shirts. One was Stan with his clown nose, and the other said Fire Stan. But Stan was instrumental in building that 15 team. He brought in parts for the 13 team also. You have to give him credit. So I don't go to the complete hate end of Stan. Stan then made a lot of mistakes. Being a general manager is not just about players. Stan died on a hill called Jeremy Colleton. And that was enough. That's where I have the problem with KD right now. Okay, maybe you're drafting okay, but you're really failing in this coaching world. Okay, and at some point in time, you have to completely change a culture that everybody's pretty okay with losing. So, you got any other Dale stories?
No, that's it.
Probably my favorite Dale quote of all time was about Patrick Kane. And for those who don't know, it wasn't a slam dunk that they would draft Kane. There's a couple other very good hockey players. And like anything else, he was small. So there was a lot of talk, this and that. And Dale just came out and said, yeah, I'm pretty sure the puck doesn't weigh all that much. And he was right on. And even Kane had to go through Meathead Nation with wanting to get rid of him when he was called Candy Kane. And, he's not Jonathan Taves, so he should go. Every player is different. And, we're seeing that with the Beacon of Hope. He's not Jonathan Taves. That's okay.
Everybody's different.
He's not Patrick Kane. That's okay, too. Once talent's around him, we'll see what kind of player he is.
Yep.
And I think we'll all be very, very happy with the kid. And he's also a kid that has had this since he's been 12. My goodness, that you're supposed to carry everything. So, all right, I think are we done with lore? The lore of it?
We're done with the lore. We are done with this week, Krusty.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask us. We love questions, and we love talking about hockey, really anything in the hockey realm. So send us your questions, and that is all. And we will talk to you guys next week.